Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. You like that Billy Mitchell car job smoke, don't you? You're addicted to it. You need another hit. Well, today we're going to go deep. We're going to go deep into Carl Jobs. His rookie mistakes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, partner. Carl Jobs is going to get that work. Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. That's right, we're going to talk about Carl Jobs. Delve deep into all the mistakes he's made. Right? He really has the untrained journalist dilemma. In my opinion, guys, remember that this is just entertainment. These are just my opinions. I'm not a professional. I'm not a law professional. But I'm here to talk smack about all the smoke that went down from the trial of the century. That's right. The legend, right? Carl Jobs versus the video game player of the century, Billy Mitchell, right? The story of Carl Jobs, he's a popular YouTuber, right? He's known for his investigative content out there, and he's been very successful. I looked at his channel. He's got over 247 million views, one of which came from a video of Billy Mitchell where he claims he made about $7,500. I don't know, does that thing have like a million views? We'll talk about figures here for entertainment purposes only. Again, this is not professional advice. This is just what you would have done different, what I perceive, right? And what others perceive that have commented on this to be mistakes that Carl has made. You have to have success in a business mindset, right? You really do. But when I look at Carl Jobs' channel, I look at somebody that grew, right? But still treats his channel and what he does outside of his channel as some guy that's just on the internet making videos, which is not the case. If we just look at revenue based on these numbers, let's just say for the sake of argument that instead of making $7,500 for a million views, this guy only makes, 5,000. What that would be like 1.2 million? Let's just say for the sake of this exercise, he's only made $500,000. That's still a lot of money. It's a lot of money, guys. And when you have a hobby that generates this much money, most people would turn it into a business, right? You have to have that success and business mindset, right? What are you going to do? What kind of tax breaks you're going to get? It's just logical, right? I mean, you could claim, probably safely that this guy's made over with sponsorships, maybe 1.3 million, maybe more. I don't know, right? But we're just going to use those figures just to kind of give us a ballpark figure of what should be happening here if you were doing this. And let me tell you, there's a lot of Carl Jobs fans out there that want to be doing this. They want to be investigative journalists, but you just can't call yourself an investigative journalist, right? You may be known for that. Maybe you're a content creator, right? But if you're going to the extra step of doing investigative journalism, right, and wanting to make a living off of that, that's a very different proposition, right? If I had, for example, let's say I had a hobby, I don't know if collecting these video games that I collect, turns this into some sort of company or what have you, the first thing I would do is turn it into an LLC, a limited liability company, for example. And I would get professional advice, which you would think Carl Jobs would have done by now with that kind of money, right? Establish a limited liability company to secure liability insurance and the right liability insurance on that. Look at what CoffeeZilla is going through now. He bought the wrong liability insurance, and now he's got to pay for his own defense, sort of like Carl Jobs is doing here, right? And there's a real importance to journalistic training. I see more and more people now say, college isn't for this, that, and the other, minimizing the value of an education. Well, when I look at Carl Jobs' educational background, it suggests that he doesn't possess any formal training in journalism, at least what I can see publicly. I might be wrong. You guys can correct me. And without those foundational skills from journalism school, like verifying sources, for example, understanding defamation laws, avoiding legally sensitive phrasing. Hello. Jobs made these inexperienced errors, rookie mistakes, right? Things that journalists typically avoid. This lack of training really comes to light when you look at the overall environment of this case. His inexperience really became evident, right? Real journalists, they're trained, they're advised on the appropriate danger of certain accusations if they make them, right? Without tangible evidence. Statements like he committed fraud, for example, it was like something he said to Gerard, right? They could be legally loaded and invite scrutiny by a legal team, and I've said that before. Other people are, talking about it now, but I'm the one who said it here first. That, Gerard's going to be foaming at the mouth after this trial, and we're going to make another video on that. But those are the kind of things that a professional would rephrase, such as allegedly committed fraud. That's the difference between, for example, a guy that's looking for clicks on the internet, right, and somebody that's trained as a journalist. He wants the clicks too, but he's not going to put himself in jeopardy. The way you frame that really avoids defamatory complications. And without oversight, right, it really reflects the key differences between a hobbyist and a professional and how he practices the craft. You have editors and everything else, right? Now, what did Billy Mitchell's barrister want to accomplish here? If you really think about it, right? But what was the whole purpose of the cross-examination, right? One, he wanted to show inconsistencies, right? He wanted to show that Carl Jobs' statements on the stand, they contradicted what he had said previously or written previously. That he had credibility issues, that not everything Carl says could be taken as true, that he's changing his stories, right, for example. He wants to challenge the quality of his evidence, and he wants to establish like malice, right, or the intent of why he made all these claims or said all these things. And when I look at the analysis, for example, from Urs Katz, which is great as far as documenting stuff, but he would make conclusions here that not necessarily, I think, I wouldn't say a judge, but like the layman person looking at this wouldn't look at it the way he does, because he's vested in Carl Jobs, right? He's got a bias, whereas somebody who didn't have a bias would look at it differently, right? And just because I'm skeptic to certain claims he makes, people take it, oh, this guy's absolutely pro Billy Mitchell. I'm absolutely pro not having nonsense on the courtrooms. To me, this whole case is nonsense, right? It's just plain stupidity. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, right? And this is why I talk about rookie mistakes or everything. I think to most people, right, such as myself or other Gen Xers, we don't view these scores like a lot of people on the internet do. For us, these scores are like wrestling. Do you want to be the champion, or look, I'll be the world champion and you be the intercontinental champion, right? Everybody's in on the gag. It's not that deep, right? It's not that deep. If somebody wants to call themselves the intercontinental champion, I have no problems with it. If you want to, be Tommy Tallarico and go buy 1,000 plaques so you can keep around the house to impress chicks, you go ahead and do that, right? I'm not gonna sit here and go, layer by layer, and saying, it's just not that deep, I think, for most people. But when it comes to this trial, it becomes super important because it's really the quality of the evidence, right? And when you look at fundamental errors here that were made, well, Carl Jobs pointed out that Billy's reputation as a litigious figure, right, a cheater, which is what he's really saying every other phrase here, every other video, wasn't the central case of this trial, right? Even if you take to heart that everybody, say 90% of the internet, believes that he's a cheater and a liar and litigious, has nothing to do with his trial, right? It really just has to do with his reputation and what Carl Jobs says. And I'm going to tell you why I think this trial really just came down to a 50-50 at the end here as I wrap it up, right? And I think the first big mistake here is, Carl Jobs not having legal advice from the very beginning, right, when he's making these videos, because if you look at it, it wasn't even tendered as a defense that Carl Jobs took the sufficient steps to verify the information before publishing it. That wasn't even part of it. The judge pointed it out. Hey, if you didn't claim it at the beginning, we're going to accept it as true, right? So failing to demonstrate that he did due diligence is really catastrophic and an oversight, right? The absence to a clear process that he fact-checked statements like, a journalist would have done, really leaves him very vulnerable here. It does. And the judge said so himself. If I'm reading what Ernst Katz wrote is correct, and I'm assuming it is, that the judge took it as so. I mean, that is just, man, that is so screwy and such a basic thing not to do. And for him not to be involved in his own defense, right? To say, hey, dude, like, you missed this. And that's, it goes back to the whole missing the timeline for him putting up and down those statements. It really messed with him because they didn't do it. The judge asked the barrister, like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And then in the end, the barrister says, oh, yeah, I corrected it. And the way Ernst Katz took it, oh, yeah, we got it in the end. I don't think the judge is going to see it that way. The judge is going to see it, hey, you told me this, and now at the end that you realize you're screwed up, now you want to change your story, right? The judge could take it that way. We don't know what the judge is going to do. But that's another misstep, right? Somebody, if you had an editor, if you had this and that and the other, somebody would have been in the background, right? Double checking everything that was being put up and said and what have you. And then you take into account the inconsistencies, right? If you're already in a trial, the last thing you want to do is out there opening your trap, which Carl had been doing. Oh my gosh, this is the worst, right? This, in the end, to me, the way I would phrase it is death by 1,000 cuts by your own mouth, right? It really is. There's an old saying in Spanish that the fish dies by its own mouth, right? Because that's how you hook them. Just shut up, man. If you're involved in a dispute like this, you just stay quiet, because now the issues of his inconsistencies really dive into his credibilities, right? First of all, we have the fact that he doesn't disclose how much money he made on the video. He said the $7,500, but he can't remember the sponsor, how much he paid him. Are you kidding me? Who the hell is going to believe that? This is the central piece of this whole case, is this video. And I know that lawyer and Billy Mitchell and also Carl Jobs went through that video back and forth to see what they get out of it. And the only reason anybody that's objective that looks at this case is going to conclude why he didn't reveal that is because he didn't want the court or Billy to know. He can't even remember the amount. Are you kidding me? I mean, you could be the biggest Carl supporter and you can smell the BS on this. There is no way he doesn't know how much money he made for that video. That would have been central to the part of just presenting this case to his lawyer. His lawyer would have asked, unless his lawyer's a complete idiot. Now, and I don't think so. I think the lawyer's not as good as Billy is, right? But I'm not saying that this guy's a complete idiot to where he forgot this, right? So now he has a credibility issue, and he has a malice issue, because the only reason, again, I'm just a layperson, right? And if you're just a layperson, you're just looking at these things for face value. Why would you hide, right? Why would you not remember? Isn't that, oh, I can't get it. Yes, you can get it. You probably could get it from your phone if you wanted to, right on the stand. You don't want to, which is quite different, right? And the judge made a ruling on that. No, this is admissible. You were supposed to show this and you didn't. So Billy's barrister really made a point of saying this guy did not disclose what he's supposed to disclose, right? And then you add stuff on there, right? You add the podcast craziness, which is just, oh my God. He goes on Camelot and says, I made what do you say? I'm paraphrasing here, guys. Heaps of videos on Billy. And, I decided to make heaps of videos on Billy. And then he put, I've spent almost 400 grand and it's going to cost another 200. And he says, that's a lot of effing money. That is why I'm making so many Billy Mitchell videos. In his own words, he caught himself dead to rights. And now he's expecting the judge to believe otherwise. When you weren't getting sued, you were saying this. Now that you're getting sued, right? Now that you're getting sued, you're changing the story. Back then, you're saying I have to earn so much money to afford this lawsuit. Were his words just about, right? To cover this Billy Mitchell trial. It's just, right? Why would you say that? You didn't have to say that. And a trained, professional probably would not have said that. A trained professional with a business probably would not say that, right? And it really crushed his credibility in front of the judge, in my point of view, right? Along with the fact of when he uploaded and took down these videos. And then on top of that, let's keep on adding to this podcast craziness where he goes with Mudahar and he says, aside from the Billy Mitchell stuff, I keep it pretty factual, right? And all the barrister was pointing is to show it. He tried to explain it away, but guys, he played himself here. There's no other way to read it. These are cuts that he made to himself. You can't explain this shit away just by saying, no, I meant something else, right? It's just like Billy when he talks about certain things. You're like, nah, come on, dude. It's the same thing. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? And so the evidence of the quality of the evidence here was all presented as to Billy being a cheater, right? Billy being a litigious person. Billy that he lied. But is that what is on trial here? Right? Is that what's on trial? Again, to me, the biggest failure when it comes to the evidence is them not presenting that he actually took the time to present this. And by his tweets, right? By his tweets, he screwed himself because he makes a tweet, and I'm paraphrasing here. I'm taking this down not because it's not true, but I'd rather him sue me for something else. So even after you take it down, right? Even after you take it down, you're still saying it's probably true or it is true. I'm just choosing to do something else. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, to any rational person, seeing this gentleman put all that stuff out. And let me tell you, if you had a professional organization, if you had a professional business, if you had lawyers advising you, you would never do that. I don't think so. I don't think any lawyer would advise you to do something like that. But I'm not a legal professional, right? Like I said, this is for your entertainment only. And this is for you, if you're planning to follow this career, to look at all these mistakes and not do them yourself, right? And then it goes to malice and intent, right? Malice and intent is the last part of this. Carl was notified by Billy Mitchell via his attorney through Keemstar and still kept the videos up, right? And I think Billy's barrister here showed malice in a couple of ways, besides what Carl himself said about Billy Mitchell, about him being a scumbag and an evil person, whatever the hell he said, right? Carl's retraction was put on a video where Billy's face wasn't on it and he buried it at the end. He said it's so he could get more views, so he could get more views on it. And nobody's buying that bullshit. Nobody is buying that. Is complete BS. When he made so many videos with Billy's face plastered right on it, to any objective person, they would look at that and see the reason you put it out there. It's just like the newspapers when they screw up a story and then they bury it, right? When they print a retraction, they bury it, in the third page or something so nobody sees it, and we've seen that before with politicians when they get stuff wrong and then they have to retract it and they put it somewhere where nobody would ever find it. It's the same thing here. That retraction came on a video it got a lot of views, but it's not the same type of video where he makes accusation against Billy Mitchell, right? That to any normal person would seem like malice, right? Like you're trying to bury the story, right? Aside from the fact that he says, again, he says on the podcast, aside from the Billy Mitchell stuff, I keep it pretty factual. Where he makes a tweet saying F Billy Mitchell, right? It really shows distaste for a man that he hasn't ever met. Like, you can say as a journalist, this guy has a public persona of X, Y, or Z, but without meeting the person, right? How do you say that he's evil? How do you say that he's a scumbag, right? Because it goes way beyond that. It goes personal without meeting somebody, right? Without Billy actually attacking him in the same way. So when anybody looks at this, where has Billy Mitchell called this guy all these things? It's probably somewhere out there, but it's not admitted to evidence, right? He may have said it to one person, maybe on a text or something, but I don't see anywhere where he actually published it, where he's going back and forth with this guy. That's not part of the evidence, right? And at the end of the day, Apollo had settled this issue with Billy Mitchell. He still decided to post the video. He still decided to do whatever it was. Even after he was told, hey, you're wrong, he still put it up there. Anybody who has half a brain is going to say, look, you left it up there because you don't like this guy, right? You think he's an a-hole. We know exactly what you think of him. He's a scumbag. He's a bad person. He's litigious. Everything else that it was said in, right? So when you add all these things up, it's just not one big aha. It's just a bunch of things that he threw on himself. If you look at everything that the barrister did, it's not things that Billy was saying. He wasn't focused on Billy's video saying, oh, Billy said this because of that, Billy is this. No. It was mostly Carl Jobs' own words. I think that's what hurt him. And at the end of the day, this is going to be a decision, I think, as far as what I read, you guys can tell me. There's two things, right? What is worse, Billy Mitchell's reputation? And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that 90% of the people thought that Billy Mitchell was a cheater, and he was a liar, and he's litigious, and he bullied people with the courts who didn't share his opinion, right? What is worse, that or taking somebody to the brink of what Apollo did and actually doing it, right? That's really the only question to answer here. Because if the judge, I don't know what the judge is going to decide, right? And I don't know what you guys think, right? But did Billy do that when the evidence shows that, Apollo didn't mention Billy at all? And Billy didn't get any money from Apollo at all. Could he have been part of stress? Yeah, maybe. You can conclude that, but not the things that were said on this video and published twice, according to what I see here. I mean, that is really the question. That's the one question that this judge really has to decide, because if he decides that, that his reputation is already shot, then there's nothing to talk about. Carl Jobs wins. And before all this stuff that I read to you, before I knew any of this, right? If I would have known any of this before, I would have told you, this is not even going to be a trial. Any judge is going to look at this and go, well, he just thinks you're a really bad person. Goodbye. Right? That's it. But after you go through the trial, and this is the thing that you have to remember, most of these never make it to court because the evidence isn't that strong. If it's in court, it means somebody in Australia looked at it and said, there's enough evidence here for a case. There's enough evidence for a trial. And they went forward, right? Those are the things where you look at it as a layperson who knows nothing about Australian law. And I didn't when I started this, guys. I didn't, right? I think Carl Jobs is an excellent content creator. He makes very interesting content. I think Billy Mitchell is a figure who's a bad boy of the community for whatever reason. I never went that deep into it, nor do I care, right? At the end of the day, I don't really care what kind of machine he played on or anything else, or how people decide these things. To me, those are fights that you can have on the internet without going to court, so they're really not that deep. But this case, with this amount of money, with the ramifications it could have specifically for Carl, because from what I know, Billy Mitchell, he's got enough money to pay his lawyers and the other lawyers. It's not a problem. He's probably already paid his lawyers, right? The only one that can lose here is Carl. And he didn't do himself any favors. At the end of the day, if he loses this, it's because of probably going to be any of the things that I just mentioned here in my, layman's point of view, right? Like I said, I'm no expert. The unfortunate part of this, that it's just not talking smack. It really is going to affect somebody's life at the end. Hopefully, this case will be decided fairly for both parties. I don't know. But the one that has more to lose definitely is Carl Jobs, right? And so if you learn anything from this, right, you should learn all the stuff that we talked about business in here. All the stuff that you can learn from not making the same kind of rookie mistakes. It might, behoove you to take some training, right? What do we learn? Let's look at I learned 5 things from this, right? That some already knew, but, are pretty standard in business, right? Number 1, protect your business. Form an LLC. Form a company. I don't know. Form a magazine. I don't know. A website, whatever you want to call it. You can call it whatever you want. You can do your investigative journalism there. 2, seek professional guidance. Don't be talking to idiots on YouTube like myself, right? A lot of these people gassed up Carl in order to go through all this stuff unnecessarily, and he's putting himself in jeopardy and his family, unfortunately, right? 3, verify your sources, right? I only talk, if I call somebody a felon, is because they have a record, right? They've been in jail already. You can't accuse people of crimes if you don't know that you have, if they haven't been charged, for example. You have to have something, right? Choose your words carefully, right? If you're trained, if you have professional guidance, then you can use legally safe phrasing like alleged or reportedly, so you don't get exposed to defamation claims, right? And then you also have to avoid perceived malice, right? Public statements that reflect personal animosity can, damage your credibility in front of the law, which I think happened here to Carl, right? And really, his experience, just a reminder to everybody who's wanting to go into this area of journalism, specifically if they're not trained in platforms like, I don't know, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whatever the heck, that you need proper preparation and understanding of journalistic practices and legal standards, right, in order to keep yourself out of hot water. All right, guys, my voice is going. I think this video is long enough. I hope you found it entertaining. And if you want to come back for more, come back for more, because we're going to be waiting. We really are going to be waiting for the outcome of this trial. Guys, thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one. Like and subscribe. Take care.
New videos every Monday and Sunday. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Gen X Gamer. Remember to like and subscribe, click that notification bell, and remember, never ever be afraid to be happy. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.